The world has been changing so much, especially the last 12 months. And in that time, I think a lot of people have been turning to hope, looking for hope in regards to the way that they can move forward. On today's show, our topic is hope. Hi, welcome to the Secret Men's Business Podcast. This is Joey Buzzattle. On today's show, we're going to be speaking to Kerrie Atherton, and she's going to be talking about her two books about hope and about how she's inspired to help people in the world. Kerrie, how are you?
Hi, Joey. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for talking to us. And I was saying to you before I press record, I get so excited when I see someone on like LinkedIn and then I reach out and they talk back. So it's really nice for you to actually acknowledge that and to be on the show. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. It's a real privilege.
So before we start, do you want to tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Well, a bit about myself. I am a complex person. I'm a super creative. I am a recovering alcoholic, sober 38 years.
Wow,
I'm a,
congratulations.
thank you. I'm a real connector of people, having battled much loneliness in my life. I'm a wife, I'm a mum, I've got two young, beautiful granddaughters, I'm a sister. My parents have both passed away now, so I'm still a daughter, but I don't get to see them anymore, which is really sad. I'm loyal, kind, empathetic, non judgmental.
I knew I loved you for a reason. So can I ask you, like all of that stuff that's happened, because it's interesting that you're so like your energy is so up and you've got such a beautiful aura. So without going into a lot of detail, how did you reconcile that trauma to be where you are now? Was it a long process?
A very long process. And I know we're talking about the books today, but I have two stories, and both of those stories are ones in each book. And there's
Right.
still a lot of stuff to be processed. But I feel like I've done so much work and I'm very much through to the other side. And that's one of the things in my books. They are the speakers, many of the speakers that have spoken at my events. And one of the things that I say to my speakers is you can only really share your story and truly be able to bring someone else hope if you've got the hope to offer.
Yeah.
So I don't have speakers that are still in the midst of their pain or stuck in that, as we call it in counselling terms, the victim mentality.
Mm,
But I have people who have come out the other side,
yeah.
because
Okay.
that right there is the story of hope, and that's
Yeah.
what I offer people.
Well, do you want to expand on that? Because that actually was my next question. So, how did you actually, I love the concept. How did you come about the idea of putting these stories into and creating books?
Well, it came from firstly starting the event, um, which that in itself is a story. But I hit rock bottom probably around 4 years ago. I've had three rock bottoms in my life, but this was a very different one. Having lost many members of my family and my parents, who I
Mm,
was very very close to, and my husband became very very sick, and I grew up in a man's world, with men as my support, and basically my male support network had been taken away.
right.
And
And so was that good support, or did you feel it was not as there was moments when it wasn't good?
well, when my male support had been taken away, for instance, when my father died and my husband was incapacitated, basically had a burnout and physical illnesses as well.
Yeah.
I'm very close to my son, so um, he was a great support. But no mum wants to feel that they lean on their son for support, you know.
Mm,
But I felt very lonely, Joey, and
mm,
being a counsellor as well. Something that many clients say to me when they leave the counselling room is, "I'm so lonely. When I
mm,
leave here, when
mm.
I leave talking to you, I feel like I've got no one."
Yeah.
And the
Um,
reality is that a lot of people do have or appear to have a lot of people in their world, and I've got lots of people in
and you
my
can still be
world.
lonely, can't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's this saying, "alone in the crowd,"
Yeah.
and that's how I felt most of my life.
But I was gonna say, right, like, so I know what you're saying about people being lonely, but because I went through a similar. I went through a bit of a crisis 5 years ago too, and what I feel is that being lonely was part of the process for me. Like I had to go through that. I don't know. Like I don't know if that's the right answer, but like I don't know if everyone feels it. But I went through this lonely because transforming didn't involve anyone else, and so when I came out of it the other end, I really felt empowered because I knew myself better. So I
Yeah.
wanted to ask you from your journey and from putting the books together, what did you learn about the human condition and maybe expanding on that a little bit?
I just think the amazing power of the human spirit, and how being connected, um, really can bring such healing to a person.
Mm,
Um, I I wrote the books. I started the events. I wrote the books because, having experienced loneliness a lot, as I said before, I didn't want anybody in that I came across to ever feel like they had to do life alone.
right.
And
Okay.
so I started a community,
Yeah. So
where
the event that you're talking about was about bringing people together.
bringing people together to hear people who had been to the depths of despair, to the brink, died on the inside, and have come out the other side. And,
Wow.
and hearing a story of hope changes someone's life. And what happened in the room was so incredible that, and obviously I held the events locally, and there a lot of people weren't privy to being able to be there. So I thought I have to take this out. I have to be able to give people a piece of what happens in this room,
Right.
and
Okay.
give it to the wider world. So that was why I wrote these two books.
Yeah. So what's the connection or it sort of does make sense, but I just want to know hear your version. What do you feel is the drive or the connection to the word hope? Like what does that tell those people that are lonely? Or what is the sort of the message of the title and what they can get from the books?
I think the thing that I needed most in my time of need was to know that somebody else had been through the same journey and come out the other side.
Mm,
And that's what the books offer. In each book, there's 12 stories of people that have been through all different circumstances, from accidents, sexual abuse, addictions, mental health, suicide attempts. One lady jumped off the Story Bridge in Brisbane and
oh,
survived. And the one of the leading detectives on the Daniel Morcombe case, he couldn't even get out his front door when that was finished because his PTSD was so bad. Former commando, like I've just so many people that have come out the other side, and
mm,
so many people in different situations can pick up that book and relate to somebody
yeah.
and know, as somebody in the book has written, her definition of hope is hold on, pain ends.
Yeah, and that's the thing, isn't it? Like, as much as I know that some people get it, but as much as someone tells you it's going to get better, it will get better. When you're in it and you feel like you're the only person going through it, it's just, again, I look back now at my experience and I really quite like that I went through that because that was the metamorphosis for me. That's what I think your stories in your books will highlight. It's like the hero's journey of going through that transformation. So again, I know you probably have many, many different stories of hope, but can you maybe mention what was one thing that you can, relate to your own life that gave you hope to make change?
I think the pivotal thing for me was, I grew up with a lot of trauma, and I was addicted to pills at the age of 11,
Mm,
and I was an alcoholic. And by the time I was 18, I was nearly dying, but I'd been suicidal many times. And I came to a point one day where I was totally hopeless and I just felt like I couldn't go on and I planned to end my life.
yeah. Isn't it interesting that like I've only just really met you and you have the total opposite to that story in your persona. So you are the epiphany of that person that's come out the other end. You know what I
Yes,
mean? You know what I
yes.
mean? So you look back and you
And
must what do you think of yourself when you look back?
Oh, well, that day I heard a loud voice, which I have been brought up with a faith, but it said to me, "Don't do it. One day you'll find happiness. One day."
Wow.
And I walked into the rooms of a 12-step program, and the
Yeah.
thing was, right before me were hundreds of people any day of the week who were walking miracles and had recovered from alcoholism and drug addiction and all the other things that went on in their life. So that was pivotal for me. And because other people cared for me, I walk this earth today.
Yeah. Can I
And
ask you though, if you had walked into that center, say a few weeks earlier, do you think it was important for that moment? Do you think that you would have maybe not got the message before? You know what I mean? Like, you know how people say everything has a timing and it's there's no serendipity, it's all meant to be. So for you, do you think that that was the right time and you just heard that voice and everything fell into place?
well, definitely because I had been in the rooms before of
Wow.
alcohol
Wow. Yeah.
anonymous,
Okay.
um, but I hadn't hit rock bottom.
Okay.
And people don't change until the pain becomes too great.
Okay.
And there was a series of events that over those few weeks leading up to this, which the pain became so great, and I saw no other way out.
Yeah.
So I think I learnt about love and acceptance there to myself, the way people loved and accepted me. But what I also learned was how to love and accept people from all walks of life.
Yeah. Without
You know,
judgment.
I'd be sitting next to, you know, there was all kinds of people in these rooms. Let's say that
Mm.
all different professions, from the rich to one day I'd be sitting next to someone homeless, and I just developed a love for the people's hearts and to love and accept people right where they're at, and to realise that everyone needs a second chance at life.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Um, because this is predominantly a men's podcast, and this is
Yes.
just a general question, like just your opinion, like
Yep.
what do you feel is what do you feel are some of the things that men are holding on to that's causing them not to embrace hope or causing them not to embrace the opportunities to transition into a better place? What's causing that you think?
Okay, well, I do a lot of work with men. Predominantly, that's the area that I work in. And a lot of men have expressed to me that they feel a lot of shame
Mm,
for either things that have happened in their life or things that they've done. They feel like it's so bad that they don't deserve to move on. So they hold themselves in that place of continuing to allow to be not treated well, to not move on. Like they feel like I need to be punished because I've done bad, or
mm,
I think the persona that the rest of the world has for men of that they need to be big, strong, they need to be the providers, they
yeah.
need to
Don't get emotional, don't express what you're feeling, all
right.
that stuff, it's gotta change. So do you
Yeah,
what do you think, are you do you
there's so
think
much
that the rock
pressure on men.
yeah, do you think the rock bottom thing is the connection to hope? Do you think there needs to be some sort of shift or something happens to people, or have you seen men change because of some other reason?
I think the reason that I've seen men change, I mean, I work with a lot of men with addictions, but a lot of men with addictions have been through, sexual abuse and different things like that. But I think the hugest contributor to people finding hope is people finding connection
Right.
with someone, with
Yeah,
someone. And connection is really vital for the human soul to flourish.
totally. So what do you think about the younger generation and how they're addicted to phones and they're not connecting? Like, what do you predict or what do you see is going to happen as younger people grow up where they're not getting all those skills or they're not even connecting? Like, I mean, my nephew the other week was sitting in the same room as us and he was texting us. Like, we're here, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I
So,
know, I know.
so do you have any connection to that and maybe what we can do to help them to see differently? Because they are from a different place.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I think we have to reach them through podcasts and stuff that are online because I don't think they're going to be changing anytime soon.
Yeah. So you don't think that we need to adapt maybe like you so that's what you're saying, we need to adapt because it's funny because I work for a counseling service and when I get a younger person wanting to see me, one of the options is texting. And I'm thinking, how am I going to do counseling for an hour through texting?
No, I
But
know.
but they want that. So in,
With anxiety being so high these days, though,
mm,
and social isolation. A lot of young people, even though you think that they have a lot of friends, what they're seeing on social media makes them feel inferior.
yeah,
So they go through a lot of social isolation and anxiety to feel like they have to keep up appearances to what the media is putting out there that is normal. Because of that, a lot of young people don't actually have the skills or the confidence to communicate as well as, say, our generation on a face to face level, one on
yeah,
one level.
I
So
totally
behind
agree.
the screen, they feel safer.
Yeah.
But I think any way that we can support the younger generation, I do feel like we need to adapt to them because they're in a world where they won't be adapting to us.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree totally. And I've got a lot of young clients at the moment, and they're struggling with that whole concept. They don't have the resources because I'm not blaming parents, but I think there was a time in their lives where they were given things a bit easier to say maybe what we were given. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like they were, I remember going to work really young as a teenager to earn money. Well, I think nowadays kids want a phone and they just get one. So it's just a little bit of difference. Um, I
You know
wanted to,
what I heard recently, Joey? I
what?
attended a conference a couple of years ago called Culture Wars,
Mm,
and it was all about this generation and how they're growing up and everything. One of the main factors, all the experts from Australia were there, head of education, head of, health, news, media, and all that, was that parents of this generation have lost their beliefs. They've lost
the parents
their
have.
parents are going through a crisis of not knowing. There's so much uncertainty in the world. They've lost their core beliefs. Like when we grew up, our parents, we knew what our parents' beliefs were. We knew
Mm.
what they stood for. We knew their values.
Oh my God, Kerry, I've just had an epiphany. Thank you. I just
Yeah.
had this aha moment. Like it just,
Okay.
I sort of feel like everything's dropped now because it's made a lot of sense. Because I was going to ask you, the next question was like, what do you think people believe in hope? Is there a struggle with the word? And I think you've sort of answered it. Some parents are struggling with believing or hoping anything. So that's rubbing off on their children.
The children have no anchor.
Right.
So our parents' beliefs and values used to be the anchor that we could hold on to, even if it was just with a couple of, a small finger or something. But
Mm.
when families don't, the divorce rates have tripled through COVID, so things are getting worse and worse. So when the family unit has broken down and the parents don't have a solid belief system, or value
Or
system.
yeah, or they're going through their own crisis, isn't it, in a way?
That's right. Their kids have nothing to hang on to that's solid.
Yeah. So
And
how do
they
you
feel lost.
how do we bring because that was actually something that I was speaking to my supervisor about. How do you bring hope to someone that doesn't see it because there doesn't seem to be a lot at the moment, for them. Like for example, if they don't see job opportunities or they all they hear is bad news on the news or all they, I know that there's always opportunities to create, but how do you help someone to connect with hope when they're stuck? It's a big
Oh,
question, isn't it?
that's a really hard question.
Yeah,
People don't change unless they're actually wanting to move forward.
yeah,
I think the message that, whilever we keep living in the past, we
mm,
will be stuck and we will never be able to move forward. Um, I keep on communicating to everybody that I know that today is the first day of the rest of your life.
yeah,
And despite your past, even being yesterday, your future can be much greater than the past.
yeah,
I think
yeah. You're right.
it's 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 only by putting if people aren't going to go out and seek hope,
Mm,
um, the best we can do is to try and put hope in front of them.
yeah. I mean, the thing that drives
Like
me
like your
through
podcast and other podcasts.
yeah, but like my medical experience 5 years ago taught me something that I've never done before, and I really now understand the benefit of it, and that was to really surrender. Because I think surrendering brings in hope. Like for me, I call it faith, but it's hope as well. So, when I surrender to like things like when I couldn't walk, for example, and I had to learn how to walk, or when money wasn't coming in because I couldn't go to work, rather than worrying, my coach was teaching me how to surrender and to have hope. And I found that when I really fully did that, everything was okay. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like hope gave me the stability to not worry because I think worry causes us to get off track.
Oh, 100%. And I think when you were saying that, I was just thinking that a huge healing factor for me has been the power of the art of gratitude.
Mm,
So just even, I teach a lot of my clients about just being grateful for three things.
yeah,
It's just while you're thinking about those three things, it's actually cutting those negative thoughts just right at the core.
yeah,
But just thinking about the things that are good in our lives, that in itself releases endorphins, which make us feel good. But that brings hope because
yeah.
that actual evidence that there are some good things in my life.
Yeah, and also it grounds you because you're focusing on the moment,
That's
you
exactly
know?
right.
Um,
Yes.
I wanted to just confirm what you were saying before about you not really, you went to the rooms and didn't do anything until you hit rock bottom.
Yeah.
In your belief, do you think that only people that have crisis and hit rock bottom are they the ones that really change? Or do you think it's possible for someone to change without a crisis?
I think it's possible for somebody to definitely change without a
Mm,
crisis,
mm,
but there's just something about being shifted out of your current situation.
yeah, I
Um,
agree. I agree. It's like you're broken and you have to put yourself back together again.
that's right. I mean, somebody who doesn't realize they're broken doesn't realize that they need healing.
Yeah. And I don't think I don't know about you, but did you find that sometimes your friends or your family couldn't understand what you were going through because only you're going through it? You can't really explain to someone what a rock bottom feels like, can you?
No, and but
Yeah.
my mum and dad, look, my mum and dad did because they were both alcoholics as well.
Okay. Right.
But I've very rarely had friends, even to this day. I have some great friends, but I don't really feel like anybody truly understands me. How
Yeah.
can they? Because they haven't walked my journey. They haven't had to do life for 38 years sober without advice or something to turn to quickly eliminate that pain. And that's what we were saying before. A lot of people are in need of healing,
Mm.
but they keep numbing themselves with numbing
Yeah.
agents,
So
whether that be,
self-medicating,
yeah, drugs, alcohol, sex,
gambling, sex,
relationships, gambling.
Netflix,
And whatever they're on
social
that
media.
whenever they're on that cycle, they're never dealing with reality or life on life's terms. And so they don't realize that they actually are in a spiral until all the circumstances and the rug is just pulled out from
Yeah.
underneath them.
Yeah, and I also like for me, I was getting all these signs and I ignored them. All these little signs like slow down, you need to rest your body, and I didn't listen because I thought I was just doing my job and loving it. And then the universe actually said, "Well, no, we're going to stop you." So they threw me into the rock bottom by making me not walk. So it's interesting how you eventually get there. Um, I know you're busy, and I just want to ask you one quick last question. Like, what would be your message of hope to the people listening? Like, if you could tell them one thing, what would that message be?
Yeah, I was having a bit of a think about this. I think very much what I was talking about not realizing that our past doesn't define us, it merely shapes us.
Mm,
And we're not our past. Something that I always say that at the end of the day, when the lights go out, despite whether we're the CEO of a company or whether we're stay-at-home mum, whether we're homeless, whether we're some rock star living the highest life ever in appearing to the outside world, when those lights go out, we're all exactly the same.
yeah,
We're all human. We're emotions in skin. Basically, that's it. And so I've really learnt the art of not worrying or not being concerned anymore about what people think.
mm,
And that was the most freeing day of my life because when I let go of all the shame of my past, I let go of what people think about me. And when I'm not concerned, or when we're not concerned about what people think, we're truly free to be our authentic self.
Yeah, I love
And when
that.
we're our authentic self, it's only then that we can truly connect with another person's soul.
Yeah.
And then that in itself brings hope and brings life and light to the rest of the world.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad that I've met you. I feel like it's meant to be. You're this really beautiful light, and I really also love the fact that I think that men need to hear these messages sometimes from female energy as much as male energy, because there's a lot of male coaches out there. But you have a gentleness that we give. The feminine and the masculine need to work together, and I think it's beautiful. So thank you so much, Kerry, for spending some time with us. And I
Thanks,
really hope
Joe.
that we can actually get you on the show again and hopefully continue this conversation.
I'd love to. Thank you so much. And hello to all the viewers out there. Thank
Oh,
you for
sorry. One other thing is that if you
yeah,
can, if the viewers want to buy any of the books, the link is going to be below. Kerry's going to provide the links to her two books.
yes.
Are they both the same title?
This one is Everyday People Extraordinary Stories.
Okay.
And this one is Resilient People Remarkable Stories.
I can't. I'm going to buy them. So yeah. So they're on Amazon, aren't they?
Amazing people. Yeah, they're on Amazon, or if you head to my website, you can get a signed copy delivered to your door.
Yeah. So yeah. So everyone who's listening who wants to get a copy of the books, click on the link below, and you'll go straight to Kerry's page. All right, Kerry. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend and lots of love.
Thank you. You too. See ya.
Bye. You've been listening to the Secret Men's Business podcast. So the podcast is out on Mondays and Thursdays. So make sure you click on the like button and subscribe so you get notified of our new podcast. Everyone have a great week and we'll see you soon. Bye.